Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 22 of Ultimate Exotics, the review series of course for the top tier supercars of Gran Turismo. And in this episode we're featuring one of the quickest supercars in the game, the Pagani Zonda. Massively iconic car, despite, like Koenigsegg, not being around all that long compared to many other supercar manufacturers. But in a relatively short time, Pagani has really made a name for themselves for making brilliant supercars that really encapsulate everything you could possibly want from a supercar. Looks that stand out, a fantastic interior, incredible sounds and performance, and a great overall package. However, on Gran Turismo, despite there being 3 different road-going versions of this original Zonda, you don't see a huge amount of people using them. You see some, occasionally for circuit racing, but not that often. This car does tend to be used the most for top speed racing, if anything, but even then, you don't see a wide variety of people using this car. It tends to be the same few people who appreciate how genuinely good the Zonda is. The majority of people by far go for the much more obvious choice of the Huayra, which is fair enough. The Huayra does have a lot of advantages. It's a premium, it doesn't cost all that much more considering how much quicker it is, and the Huayra is just an easier car to get more performance out of. But for those who do prefer the Zonda, and I'm included in that camp, I far prefer the Zonda to the Huayra personally. I respect the Huayra, but to me it's just not a true Pagani. It's too technical and too computerized. The Zonda has a lot to offer to people who like the car. Now there are 3 particular versions of the car on the game, and we're featuring in this particular episode the ultimate version of the first generation Zonda before it got facelifted into the Zonda F, which is really a Phase 2 Zonda. This version is, as I said, the top of the line. There are 3 versions. There's a C12, the C12S and the C12S 7.3, and they go up in engine size with each variation, a 6 litre, a 7 litre, then a 7.3. The engines are built by Mercedes-AMG. They are incredible engines, and in this version it has the strongest spec of all. 7.3 litres, 12 cylinders, naturally aspirated, no turbo, no supercharger to aid it, but still produces well over 1,000 horsepower. It's actually 1,035 in the case of this model. The S version, the 7 litre, produces slightly less at 1,030 horsepower and has very similar overall specs. Now we're not going to be reviewing the 7 litre version because it's just not necessary. It's like this car but just not quite as good. Not that it's a bad car, there's just no real reason to review it. It's not different enough to be worth it. We will, however, be reviewing the C12 6 litre model, the original Zonda, in a future episode because that is a genuinely different car and does actually have its own unique advantages. But what about for this model? What does it have to offer? Well over 1,000 horsepower, as we said. It also puts out just under 900 pound-feet of torque, which is an incredible spec for a naturally aspirated engine. And usually a naturally aspirated V12 would be all about high range power and not much torque, what you'd typically expect from a Ferrari or a Lambo. But being a Mercedes V12, they really know how to make a V12. Mercedes are incredible, especially AMG, are incredible engine builders, and that is really shown to its best, really, in the Zonda, because despite being a hugely powerful naturally aspirated V12, it doesn't lack the torque of a typical V12 that a typical V12 would, and the power doesn't have to be ragged to reach its peak. Peak power arrives at less than 7,000 RPM and peak torque arrives at 5. So the engine doesn't need to be ragged at all in the way a typical naturally aspirated supercar would. Now the car is predominantly carbon fibre in construction, so it's reasonably lightweight. It does still have a large engine and a pretty luxurious spec though, so it's not ultra light. It weighs in at 1,152 kilos, and thanks to that, it puts out just under 900 horsepower per tonne. But you can kind of tell how good this car can really be by the PP. It sits at 656 PP, which is extremely high. That's higher than a Toyota TS30 hybrid. That's almost as high as the Nissan Nismo LM car and a variety of other top-level racing cars, prototype and otherwise. Now, in terms of overall performance, the Zonda is a little bit trickier to unlock the best potential out of compared to the Huayra. The Huayra is already fast, kind of like the TZ3. But the Zonda, when tuned properly, can cruise at just under or around 300 miles per hour, at least 295 with decent tuning. The acceleration is incredible with no lag whatsoever, thanks to being naturally aspirated. And although, yeah, 1 million credits is a lot, I would say it's definitely worth it. Purely for the combination that it's incredibly quick, but also completely undervalued compared to how often people should use this car. So if you're looking to have a strong all-round supercar, which, yeah, fully tuned, the handling isn't a walk in the park, it requires skill, but if you're looking for a supercar that not everyone uses, this is a great one to go for. So, that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.